Thank you all for tuning in one more time. I am your host, Michelle, and I'm just super excited today. The topic that we're going to be talking about is very near and dear to my heart. But beyond the topic being near and dear to my heart, I have a very special guest who is also near and dear to my heart, and that is my husband, Pastor Marquise Robinson. Thank you for joining me today.
I'm glad to be here, sweetie.
Absolutely. And you're looking very fine right now.
And you're looking beautiful yourself.
Well, thank you, sir. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about relationships and finances. And, I believe that this is very near and dear to my heart because I've seen relationships fall apart and crumble because of finances. Marriages that have been intact for years all end because misunderstanding and miscommunication about finances. So today, we want to come and we want to talk to you and share with you some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we know and we've implemented that work as it relates to relationships and finances. And so I think about our marriage. We are going on 10 years now in marriage. And I have to say that we do a phenomenal job as it relates to money, how we communicate money, how we spend money, and all those different things. And so for me, one of the first things that comes to mind when I think about how individuals can be successful in relationships as it relates to money is the importance of discussing finances from the very beginning. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, because as we know in any relationship, communication is key. So when it comes to the finances, you definitely got to be on the same page. You got to be able to communicate and talk with each other about what you're going to do with the finances, how you're going to handle the finances, how you're going to spend the finances, or whatever those things are. Communication is definitely key. You got to know what each other is saying and have an understanding, because that can lead to a lot of different issues and problems when there's no communication, especially with finances, because they say some of the top things that's to deal with breaking up marriages and relationships has to deal with finances. That's one of them. So you definitely want to be able to communicate when it comes to your finances.
Absolutely. And not just once you get married, because I think that that's a little bit too late to start talking about money. I believe that you need to have these conversations and dialogues when you're even thinking about
Definitely.
coming together in a serious relationship. Of course, because we are Christians, we believe in being married before you live together, but we understand that that's not everybody's belief. And so before you get to the point where you're going to be in a serious relationship where you are like cohabitating, marrying, sharing responsibilities with someone, you need to talk about finances because you need to know what the other person values, what their thought process is as it relates to finances. Because the second thing that we've talked about that's important is alignment. And
Yes.
being in alignment as it relates to finances, those discussions need to happen up front.
Yes, you need to definitely make sure you're on the same page, going into into a marriage, let me say it like that. You got to be on the same page before you even get into that marriage, because you don't know the background of how people have been brought up. There's people that been brought up in families where they handle finances a certain kind of way. And you may not get with that. And so you got to discuss these things, talk about these things, because you said a key word. You said alignment.
Yes.
Alignment. When you're out of alignment, things begin to drift. Things begin to get off course. And so you definitely don't even want to go into a marriage and you're already out of alignment. Marriage has to deal with being one and coming together. That's what it should be about.
Yes.
And so you definitely want to be together when it comes to the finances, because you don't want to come in already drifting and already going different directions, because it's going to cause a strain on that marriage.
And when you think about marriage and relationships, there's already automatically this reality that you are bringing together two people,
Yes.
two individuals, two different cultures,
Yes.
two different backgrounds. Like, that's just a reality off the top. But then when you bring in the aspect of finances, so let's just take me, for example, what I observed growing up related to finances. And I often share the story about Christmas and how, first of all, I came from a working poor family. Now, my parents would probably disagree with that statement because, of course, nobody likes to utilize the term like working poor. But when you talk about being working poor, you're talking about someone who works, a job, and they basically make enough money to pay bills. You may be able to do some things, but you don't have financial like freedom. And so I came from a working poor family. My mother was a cook. My father was a taxi cab driver. That's my background. However, that being said, every single Christmas, I kid you not, there were so many presents under the Christmas tree that they weren't even under the Christmas tree, y'all. They weren't even under the Christmas tree.
They were outside.
They were outside of the tree. They were all like, they probably took up, I might be exaggerating if I said a quarter of the living room, but it was a lot. It was this whole area that had nothing but gifts. Okay. So when I first became an adult, I just thought that was like the cool thing to do because my mom used to buy everybody a Christmas present. It wasn't just me and my sister, her parents, my dad. My mom had, 5 brothers? All the brothers got Christmas gifts. The neighbor down the street got Christmas gifts. Everybody got Christmas gifts. And so when I first became an adult, I thought that was cool and okay. And the thing to do was to be buying a whole bunch of Christmas presents. Now, thank God I matured. And by the time we got together, I had changed and shifted my mindset. But that is an example of what if I would have came into the marriage talking about, however they say it, we got to buy Christmas gifts for everybody. How many nieces and nephews do you have?
I got a whole bunch.
And cousins, yeah. So let's talk about that.
Family. So, you said it right though with that whole thing about two different backgrounds, two different lives, two different upbringings.
Yes.
And trying to bring it together and merge it together, that's difficult in itself. So you definitely got to be in alignment and talking about how do you feel about this, and this is how my background was. This is what I observed, and how do you feel about that? And get on the same page because, it's it can be a difficult thing when you're not, but it can be a wonderful thing when you are. So it's definitely important.
Absolutely.
I can't really say too much about what I observed growing up as far as financially because I don't even remember. I don't know.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
I don't know. I was just living. I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, listen, this is another thing that we have to bring to the table to share with people because we're also a blended family.
Yes.
And, that brings on a whole different dynamic, whether people realize it or not, because we have a blended family where all of our children aren't in the same house. We are in communication with our children's other biological parents. And that can even have an impact on, believe it or not, how you think about finances because there's a different influence. My daughter, for example, her father, and I joke and I say my husband is cheap, but he's cheap in a certain way. It's not relative to our family. My daughter's father is like super, super, super cheap to the point where when she's with him, he'd be asking her if she has money to pay for stuff, right? So that is a certain mindset that is being like infiltrated, into our system and how we do things in our household. Because now, you have my daughter who has a certain purview of finances because she's also being influenced by her father. So the bottom line is alignment between the two individuals as it relates to finances is critical.
I agree.
And so the third thing that I want to bring up and bring to the table for discussion is having a financial vision and strategy. And I know you about to go off with this one, so I'm gonna let you talk first.
I'm gonna go off on this.
All right.
No, but no, you're right. You're right. Financial strategy and vision is definitely key. If you don't have a vision, then you don't know where you're going. So it's important to, after you establish that communication, after you get an alignment that you're on the same page, now you got to have a vision and you got to have goals. All right, because you're going somewhere, or you should be going somewhere with your finances. A lot of times they say, you don't know where your money's going because you don't have a plan for it. You don't have a vision for it. So you definitely got to have a vision. You got to have a strategy when it comes to relationships and with money, because see, me, I'm a pastor, so I connect everything back biblically. And the Bible talks about if you don't, have a vision, then people perish. Now, what that actually means is where there's no vision, the people don't have any restraint. So in essence, what it means is if you don't have a vision when it comes to your finances, then you don't have any restraint.
That's good.
You don't have any barriers. You don't have anything to keep you in a particular place so you can get to where you're going. There's no direction. There's no guidance. So you definitely need to have a vision. You definitely need to have a strategy and be on the same page, going back to alignment, because if there's no vision, the people have no direction, no guidance. Your finances have no direction, no guidance. But then you got to be careful of, if there's not one vision, then you have division. You have division. And so, of course, where there is division, a house that's divided against itself cannot stand. So your finances ain't going to be able to stand when you are divided. And not only division or division, vision. The vision dies. You ain't got no vision.
Goodness. Lord,
so the finances
mercy.
die.
Lord,
so you definitely
got
got to have a strategy. You got to have, they talk about them SMART goals, those goals that you begin to set, and those that are measurable and different things like that, so you can track, because you want to get somewhere, you want to go somewhere. And so you got to have vision. You got to be able to see yourself in the future, or see your finances in the future. Because if you don't, then you'll just end up anywhere and be wondering why you still in the situation you was in.
Come on. You just said, first of all, you just said a whole lot. You dropped a lot of wisdom in that. And when you were speaking and you gave the interpretation or expounded upon my people perish where there's no vision, and you talked about there being a lack of restraint. And when you think about that from a financial aspect, if you don't have a vision, if you don't know where you're going financially, there's no restraint. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? That looks like me going out, or whoever going out and just shopping. You get paid, you have money. First thing you do is you go spend it, because there's no vision.
No restraint.
When you have a vision of, we want to be financially free, like from probably the very beginning of our relationship, we both were saying we want to be full-time in ministry.
Right.
Want to be full-time in ministry. We want to own our own time. We want to be able to do whatever it is that we want to do. That was a vision. In order for us to be able to do that, which as we sit here today, we own our own time. Neither one of us work for anyone. My husband, I believe it's been 2 years since you've been off of a clocking into a job. Yes. And January the 3rd was my last day on my job, but we had a vision. If we didn't have a vision, I would have been doing whatever, because we made the money to be able to do whatever we wanted to do. But because we had a vision and we knew that it was our goal and desire to not work for anyone, then that meant that we had to have a strategy.
Yes.
We were saving. We were investing in certain things. We were making sure we didn't have debt. We had a vision and we had a strategy that we put in place. And that with that came restraint.